What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of At a Glance, a series in which I give you an appetizer, sample, or glimpse into a particular faction in 40k. The goal behind it is to help you decide if you want to look further into that force on your own, or maybe start collecting that force as well. So up on the chopping block this time is going to be something that is not a redo. I'll be doing that in the future, but this one's not a redo. This is going to be the Necrons of the Dynasty of the Mephrit Dynasty, my favorite Necron Dynasty. We've known about these guys before the 8th edition codex. We didn't get much fluff on them in the past. They were just kind of there as a palette swap, but they're pretty cool. And they're also known as the Solar Reapers, which is a fantastic name for any force. So let's get right to it. First up is color scheme. What we're looking at here is, at first glance, very basic. When you look at the warrior, we're not going to look at the energy effect for the Necrons. That'll be at the end of talking about the color scheme. But the basic Necron warrior is silver-bodied. The little symbol in the middle of their chest for the Necrons, the underneath it is all black. The weapons that they wield are black, and this is true for any Necron wielding a melee or a ranged weapon, whether it's the shaft of the melee weapon or it's the ranged weapon itself. It's black. So silver, black, and that's it for the basic Necron warrior. Very stereotypical Necron. However, once you start going up from immortal upwards, you get more and more stuff added. The big one is green. The shoulders of the Necron immortal are done this way, and you see this as the main armor, if you will, of like the carapace of a Canoptech creature, or on a monolith, or on a flyer, or on other vehicles. This green, I describe it as a rugged, utilitarian, mossy green, because I can't. There's another term I could use. I just don't remember it. It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember it. So aside from going crazy, I'll just call it rugged, mossy, utilitarian green. This effect replaces, if you will, anytime you would see that obsidian green effect of its classic Necron for like the monolith and whatnot. This rugged, mossy, utilitarian green replaces that. So with that said, when you get to even further, like Necron Overlords and some other models, you will see a really bright gray, near white gray also used. So you have the silver, this gray effect, typically on like the head and torso area, a little bit to kind of like make the model pop. The green on top of that, which is also on the Overlords, and the black of the weapons. This green, light gray, silver, and black combo does look very nice. But ultimately what sets it off and makes it pop is the Necron energy effect for this dynasty. It's not your classic green. If it was, it'd be kind of a forgettable color scheme, in all honesty, for me. But what really makes it, sets it off, is the orange. Anywhere you would have green energy, you have orange for the Mephrit dynasty, for they harness the power of captured suns for everything. From that lonely little scarab beetle that might have a little green orb, would be an orange orb on them, all the way up to their devastating firepower of their monolith. Everything is orange effect as opposed to green, and that's what really sets it off and makes it pop for twofold for me. A, orange is one of my favorite colors, so I'm instantly drawn to that anytime I see it. B, because we're so used to seeing green Necron energy, when we don't see that, we're drawn to it right away. For this dynasty and a couple other dynasties as well, you're just naturally drawn to it because it's not green. So it really helps make it pop. Whether or not you like it after that's a different story. I happen to like orange, so it works for me. So very cool little color scheme. With that said, it is also very fitting, the orange especially, given the lore during the Great War back, the ancient Great War of the Necrons against the galaxy, basically, particularly the Eldar. The Silent King would call forth the Mephrit dynasty when they absolutely required the utter obliteration of a force, of a sector of space, of a pesky race. If absolute extinction and destruction was the only desired outcome and nothing else mattered, Mephrit dynasty was always called in. And I like that. They're not against the honorable combat code of the Necrons. They just don't feel themselves having to follow it all the time, every time. If they can collapse a star and wipe out a sector of space because A, the sector of space isn't desirable for the Necrons, and B, there's a pesky race there, they'll do that. They are the undisputed masters of stellar phenomena and solar energy manipulation. So they can do that. In the height of their power, they could basically collapse a star overnight, causing it to go supernova and wipe out the system. They still can do that, it just takes a little longer. But that's what they did. They were the undisputed destruction masters of the Necron Dynasties, because the other dynasties really upheld honorable code of warfare through and through, and and kind of ridiculed the Mephrit Dynasty about it. The Mephrit Dynasty didn't care; they just wiped things out. Would they fight honorably? Yeah, but if they didn't need to, if it was not necessary, if for example, taking the planet and scouring it of all life except Necrons wasn't the desired outcome, if that didn't matter, they just wipe them out. No questions asked. Really kind of straightforward and pragmatic, if you ask me. So I like that about them. Now, cut to the 41st millennium, the theme of Necrons is time has not been kind to them. They are timeless, but time doesn't have to be kind to you when you're timeless. So they've had a lot of their glorious tech fall into disrepair and just neglect because, well, it's been sitting for aeons. So on top of that, the Eldar made a point during the Great Slumber. Obviously, they would seek out and destroy Necron tomb worlds whenever they found it. And whether they specifically seeked this out or they got lucky, they found the crown world of the Mephrit Dynasty. Considering how devastating the Mephrit Dynasty was, I think that the Eldar set out to find it. But the crown world is the seat of power for any dynasty. This is where the overall leader is and all that jazz. That was wiped out by the Eldar during the Great Sleep. So when the Necrons fully reawoken and the Mephrit Dynasty was reawakening, they quickly found a power vacuum. You give a Necron a power vacuum, that's going to consume their time. They're going to do massive politicking to try and gain power. This has taken the forefront of the Mephrit Dynasty, so they're still dangerous, but they're not really focusing on rebuilding and getting themselves repaired up to their former glory. They're not trying to find any tech that was lost and repair it. That's not their priority. Right now, the priority for most of the dynasty is politicking. There are a few overlords out there that are politicking, but also are putting the repair and reacquiring and rebuilding of their technology and capability up on priority as well. So it is slowly happening. And once the power vacuum is filled, it'll happen a lot quicker, and then it'll truly be a dangerous universe, or at least a dangerous galaxy once the Mephrit get fully operational again. So as it stands, it's still very dangerous. Like I mentioned, it's still the undisputed masters of stellar phenomena and solar energy manipulation. So pretty interesting fluff all around. I think they're very cool. It doesn't mean they're the most powerful dynasty. It's kind of like when you read on a Space Marine chapter and you read that Ninth Company is the most destructive company because it's the Devastator Company. Well, it was until the Primaries came along. Now it's, the heavy support company. But the point is, it's where the concentration of firepower was at its highest in that chapter. Ninth Company would be the most devastating, destructive company firepower-wise. It doesn't make that company the strongest of companies. It just means their destructive firepower is the highest. That's kind of like the Mephrit Dynasty. It doesn't mean they're the most powerful of all dynasties. It just means that destructive raw capability is ridiculous. So with that said, collecting Mephrit Dynasty, that's like any dynasty, requires a Necron Codex. And since we have dynastic codes now, if you're going Battleforged, you're going to take the Mephrit Solar Fury Dynastic Code. Another really cool name, Solar Fury. Basically, this affects ranged weapons only. So melee weapons will look cool orange, but you don't get any effect. But this is a really interesting ranged weapon rule. Basically, any ranged weapon attack, when you're attacking an enemy that is within half the range of your maximum range, so at 24 inches, if they're at 12 inches or less, this kicks in, and so on and so forth. So the halfway point of your maximum range, when you're shooting an enemy, the armor penetration characteristic is improved by 1. If it was 0, it becomes -1, so on and so forth. So you're shooting at something 14 inches away with the 24-inch range weapon, standard armor penetration. The moment they get 12 inches or closer, you're getting a bonus of 1 to your armor penetration characteristic. This is actually a pretty big deal. And once you realize the SARS effect, it affects all of your ranged weapons, and you start seeing what it can really buff up, it becomes pretty sweet, in all honesty. So it's not game-breaking unfair. It's just really rewards aggressive shooting, Kind of like how salamanders are aggressive close in shooting for space marines. This makes the Mephrit that version for the Dynasty, close and aggressive mid-range firepower, or just being aggressive with all your firepower to get within half. It also really benefits the let them come approach if you're going to face down a massive Tyranid horde or Orc horde or anything that's going to bum rush you. If you're able to be mobile and keep them within half, which can be risk versus reward for sure, you're able to really dish out some firepower. So it benefits both style of play. If that's the way you like to play, it is for me. So really appealing to me for a Necron force. Pretty cool. But that's the way to do it for the Mephrit, obviously. They have their own dynastic code, so you'd obviously use that. When it comes to collecting models, any Necron model and kit will work. If you're going to field a special character model because it looks sweet, like Anarchy the Traveler, really cool looking model, obviously it won't count as that character. It'll just be a basic Overlord or just look cool. This also, given that they are Stellar Phenomena, Solar Energy Manipulators, I think Cryptex have a really nice fitting place in any Necron force, and I think you have a very easy way to explain it away here as well. So if you like Cryptex, there you go. And all in all, not too hard to figure out a way to build them up, given their playstyle. When it comes to actually doing the collecting of the Necron models, you have two options when it gets to those plastic rods, because all the plastic rods you get in the kits are green, for the Necron Warrior, for the Destroyers, for the Monolith. You could paint them up orange, like you see in the Codex. That's one way of doing it. It's more time consuming. Those green tubes don't take paint the same way as the plastic models do, but once you get it figured out, no problem. It's just now you got to paint that thing up and make it the effect shine and everything, and it can look really, really cool as we see in the Necron Codex. It's just more time consuming. That's one option. The other option is you spend some money. If you spend some extra money, you can find online different storefronts. There's one on Etsy, for example, that gives you Necron Warrior rods and Monolith crystal sets in different colors. Yellow, purple, blue, whatever. They also offer a nice orange. Now it's not gonna glow like you see the painted up one though. It's going to be basically the orange version of a green tube and the green crystal. Some people find that look cheesy and will paint it up. I like the look of the plastic tubes. It's just different. It helps the Necron stand out and feel different. So I don't mind those plastic rods and stuff and plastic crystals. But it's extra money. It's like $32 for the Necron Monolith crystal set. However, you don't need a million of them, so it's a little extra money for the convenience of it. And I really do like it. And the Warrior rods are like $5 for 12. Not that bad. It is extra money you're spending for your collection, however, but that can definitely be the way to go. If you're like me, you're not too up on wanting to paint up all those crystal rods. I'd rather do that extra orange paint up effect. I'd rather save it for key points like Triarch Praetorians or Lich Guard or Overlords and stuff like that, where you have to do it anyway. I'd rather do that. But yeah, that's just me. So the nice thing about this, however, though, is all the colors surrounding this orange effect are really nice cover-up colors. So you can do the orange effect first when it comes to painting, and then clean up around it carefully with the rest. Or if you're going to use that to try and do a glow effect, you can do the orange last then. But either way, it's going to be a pretty sharp looking army with the orange energy, with the green, silver, and light gray and black. And whether or not you paint up the plastic rods or you buy extra plastic rods, it's up to you. One's going to take more time, effort, and maybe some capability, but just really be a time thing. The other one is going to be extra money, which you don't need to spend, but as long as you go into it knowing you're going to be spending extra money that way, it's not going to catch you off guard, right? It shouldn't be a surprise. You're spending extra money because you're looking for a particular effect, not from the kit. Anyways, the ball's in your court on that one. But that's at a glance for the Mephrit Dynasty, my favorite Necron Dynasty. I'm really considering putting up a test model because I think they're that cool. But anyways, what are your thoughts on the Mephrit Dynasty for the Necrons? What's your favorite Necron Dynasty? Share it in the comment section. I'll eventually do the other dynasties over time for at a glance. I'm going to get back to doing a redo or two before doing something new. It's kind of how I'm going to balance it out. Anyways, thanks very much for sticking through it. And leave any question, comments, or requests in the comment section. Take it easy.